Good morning. Good morning. And thank you for joining us for our Good Friday service today. We want to extend our welcome to those of you who are participating at home and to those of you here in the sanctuary. This morning, we are stepping into a moment that can be quite uncomfortable. Throughout the year, we reflect on the goodness, grace, and love of God. And while all these things are true, on Good Friday, we must confront our own brokenness. And whether you are here in person or whether you are joining us online, we would like to ask you to step into this uncomfortable space and recognize the ways in which Christ's death on the cross impacts you. Good Friday is a day in which we encounter a somberness we might not be used to, and a sadness we might prefer to avoid. And while our hearts long for this upcoming Sunday in which we encounter a celebration of the resurrection, we cannot get to the resurrection without passing through the heartbreak of the cross. We will participate in worship, in prayer, and we will receive teaching from Pastor Kevin this morning. As you leave this space after our final reading today, we will ask you to carry the nail that you brought in with you and leave it at the cross. You can place them here on this table underneath this cross, or if you prefer, the cross in the corner. After that, we will ask you to leave the sanctuary and the church in reflective silence. So as you settle into your spaces, whether at home or here in the sanctuary, please focus your heart on Jesus Christ and his sacrifice this morning. Prepare yourself as you examine and consider the weight of Christ's sacrifice on the cross. Take a posture of prayer this morning and receive this call to worship. Loving God, today in remembrance and awe we tread the holy ground of Calvary, this place of abandonment that has become the scene of our adoration, this place of suffering that has become the source of our peace, this place of violence that has become the battlefield on which love is victorious. Merciful God, as we relive the events of this day, it is with awe that we count again the cost of our salvation. Words cannot be found to utter our thanksgiving. Accept our adoration. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's respond in worship.
Love at creation, love at the dawn, love in the sunrise, high over all, love in the first breath, love in the last, here in the present, and there in the past. Love in your promise and all of your plans, there in your heart and your ways and your hands. Love like a whisper, love like a roar, there in our victories and there when we fall. This is my song of redemption. This This is our story of hope. All that we lost in the garden, forever restored at the cross. Jesus, we come. It was love all along. Whoever heard of a God who has wounds, and who else has laid down their glory like you? Whoever traded the crown for a cross, will sing forever that our God is love. Oh, our God is love. This is my song of redemption. This is our story of hope. All that we lost in the garden, forever restored at the cross. Jesus, we come. It was love all along. How great is your love. 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 How great is your love.
Seated. Please join me in a responsive confessional prayer. Where we have failed to love and have loved to hurt,
Forgive us and heal us.
where we have scorned difference and have been indifferent to those in need,
Forgive us and heal us.
where we have spoken harsh words to others and have been quick to take offense ourselves,
Forgive us and heal us.
where we have prayed and sang about injustice and have ignored the injustices around us,
Forgive us and heal us. The point of crucifixion wasn't just that it killed people. It wasn't just that it caused pain. It was designed for politics. It was designed for humiliation. And it was designed for intimidation. And there were a variety of ways to do it. They would bind or nail the victim to a cross, a tree, or a stake. And the victim wouldn't be that damaged when they were crucified. All the organs would be fully operational, and there wouldn't be that much loss of blood. Because of this, death came slowly. Sometimes it took several days. There was no standard form practiced by the Romans, but there were some crucial components. Crucifixion always included a whipping beforehand, and the victims were required to carry their own cross beam to the crucifixion site. And then they were either nailed or tied to the cross with arms extended and raised up. And they would always make sure the person in question was fully naked because it was more humiliating that way. So the person would be naked and tied or nailed to a stake, a tree, or a cross. And they would put them at major intersections where lots of people could see them undignified and hanging there. And here's an important point. Crucifixion was reserved for enemies of the state. It was reserved for troublemakers. It was reserved for people who threatened Roman authority. So people would mock and ridicule the enemies of the state. The Roman citizens, the good citizens of Rome, didn't feel sorry for these terrorists that were hanging on the cross. They were bad people according to them. And then the victim died, and it was common practice to leave them up to rot as food for the birds. And it was a reminder of what happens to people that cross the state, that cross the power of Rome. So this is the context that we pick up from today. Jesus is on the cross, and he is suffering. This is Luke chapter 23, verses 32 to 34. Two other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. Jesus said, "Forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Maybe you're not surprised to hear Jesus ask for their forgiveness. Maybe this is expected, knowing who Jesus is. We have the privilege of knowing the rest of the story because it's in our Bibles. But it would have been challenging for people back then. Forgive them? You mean the Romans? Them? How can we forgive them? They are the oppressors. They are evil. They deserve everything they get. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Who are them and who are they? Jesus doesn't say. The Bible doesn't say. Maybe the ones on the ground, the ones that are dividing up his clothes, that seems likely. Or maybe it's aimed at people who are actually doing the crucifying. The guards who put him on the cross. The ones who hung him there. That seems likely. Or maybe the guards weren't the bad ones. Maybe they were just carrying out bad orders. Who is the them? Who is the they? I suppose it could have been any of those groups. But I'm not totally convinced. Because when I think about who he asked forgiveness for, it just keeps expanding. From the guards to those who were casting lots for his clothes, to those who cheered as he was led out to Golgotha, to those who shouted for Barabbas instead of Jesus, to Pilate and Herod, to Judas, to Thomas, to the Pharisees. Where do we stop? Do we stop there? Forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing. I think it's remarkable that he would cry this out in the cross in so much pain. And it tells us about Jesus and what he's like. It tells us about the Father and the Spirit, the Trinity, what he's like. It's a belief in a God who does forgive, and it reveals God's heart. His dying wish is for forgiveness and love and healing of brokenness. And God, through Jesus Christ, is always seeking ways to offer forgiveness. What kind of God do we believe in? Is he this kind of God? He is a God who does forgive. The way Jesus prays this is with confidence. It's not like he's unsure that God will forgive. He's confident. Father, forgive them. The Father Jesus prayed to is eager to forgive wrongs in a way that seeks and searches and finds ways to forgive. Not in a way that seeks to find wrongs, desperately searching for reasons to convict. Jesus doesn't look for more to condemn about. He's not building a case against them. He's not looking for evidence. He's not looking for what they did or did not do. He's looking for ways to forgive them. Even now, after they divided up his clothes, even now hanging on the cross naked, even now as he is humiliated, he's trying to find a way. He looks for ways to forgive. Our understanding of God too often is one who looks for reasons to condemn. Jesus is the one who desperately seeks reasons to forgive. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Who is the them and who is the they? It's me, it's you, it's us. And God, through Jesus Christ, is always seeking ways to offer forgiveness to us. If we take a narrow context and assume the word them and they points to someone in particular, to the guards, to Pilate, to the Sanhedrin, we miss the big point here. The them is for all. We know this, it was expected, but we often miss it. This is the point of Isaiah 53, a passage known as the suffering servant. In Isaiah, there's a prophecy. One will come to free the captives, and he will suffer. But suffer for who? He will suffer for all. He is a suffering servant, and his name is Jesus. God, through Jesus Christ, is always seeking ways to offer forgiveness to us. But we have trouble both accepting it and giving it. We like to blame. He did it. She's responsible. They did it. It's them. We seem to get stuck in this view that others are responsible. If we understand Jesus' words from the cross, if we understand that Jesus is speaking those words to us, if we understand that we don't deserve that forgiveness, if we understand that God, through Jesus Christ, is desperately seeking ways to forgive, not condemn, maybe we'll understand those words are spoken to us. He's talking about us. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Who's the them? Who's the they? There's a reason it's left ambiguous. It's left that way because we need to read those words and hear those words directed at us. Not all those other people who need forgiveness in our lives. We put Jesus on the cross. We divided up his clothing. We humiliated him. We did it. Jesus spoke those words. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And it started a movement, and those words spread. I forgive you. Those words moved outwards and spread outwards and continue to. And we can forgive because we have been forgiven. We can forgive because we know it was us who put Jesus on the cross. We can forgive because we know it was us he was speaking to when he uttered those words of forgiveness. They were words directed at all. Jesus seeks to forgive. He's seeking ways to offer forgiveness. He's seeking ways to forgive us. He is seeking and searching and finding. Father, forgive them. God, through Jesus Christ, is always seeking ways to offer forgiveness to us. Who put Jesus on the cross? We did.
There's a place where mercy reigns and never dies. There's a place where streams of grace flow deep and wide. All the love I've ever found comes like a flood, comes flowing down. At the cross, I surrender my life. I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of you. Where your love ran red and my sins washed white. I owe all to you. I owe all to you, Jesus. There's a place where sin and shame are powerless, where my heart has peace with God and forgiveness. There's a place where mercy reigns and never dies.
This morning we're reading from Luke chapter 23, verses 8 to 25. When Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased, because for a long time he had been wanting to see him. From what he had heard about Jesus, he hoped that he would see him perform some miracle. He plied him with many questions, but Jesus gave him no answer. The chief priests and the teachers of the law were standing there, shouting accusations at Jesus. When Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him, dressing him in an elegant robe, they sent him back to Pilate. That day, Herod and Pilate became friends. Before this, they had been enemies. Pilate called together the chief priests, the rulers, and the people, and said to them,
"You brought me this man as one who is inciting the people to rebellion. I've examined him in your presence, and I found no basis for the charges against him. Neither has Herod, for he sent him back to us. As you can see, he has done nothing to deserve death. Therefore, I will punish him, and then I will release him."
With one voice they cried out,
"Away with this man! Release Barabbas to us!"
Barabbas had been thrown into prison for an insurrection in the city and for murder. Wanting to release Jesus, Pilate appealed to them again, but they kept shouting,
"Crucify him! Crucify him!"
For the third time he spoke to them.
"Why? What crime has this man committed? I have found in him no grounds for the death penalty. Therefore, I will have him punished, and then I will release him."
But with loud shouts, they insistently demanded that he be crucified, and their shouts prevailed. So Pilate decided to grant their demand. He released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, the one they had asked for, and surrendered Jesus to their will.
These are the words of our Lord and our God.
We'll ask you now to participate in a reading with us. Dan will be our leader, and congregation, you can follow me. After our reading, as a reminder, we will be placing our nails at the foot of the cross, either at this table or in the corner there, and we will leave the church in reflective silence.
He was arrested. You followed him to the trial, and they came to you and said to you, "You aren't some of this man's disciples too, are you?"
We are not.
Are you sure you're not some of his disciples?
We are not.
I recognize you. You're definitely some of his disciples.
A curse on us if we're lying. We don't know the man.
And so Jesus was handed over to Pilate. And Pilate brought forth Jesus and a criminal called Barabbas. "Whom do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah?"
Not this man. Give us Barabbas.
"What should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?"
Crucify him.
"I don't see any reason to kill him. Why don't you release him?"
Crucify him.
"I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves."
His blood be on us and our children.
"Very well. Here is your king."
We have no king but Caesar. Crucify him.
"Are you sure You would really crucify your king?
We have no king but Caesar. Crucify him.
You hypocrites! You hate us more than him.
We have no king but Caesar. Crucify him.
It will be as you say. Take him away and crucify him.